My name is Allison. I'm 72 years old. I lost my husband last year. Now I live alone in my house. My husband, who is the same age as me, developed dementia in his later years. I took care of him at home for a while, but in his final year, he was taken care of in a nursing home. Thanks to that, I still have ties with the nursing home, even after my husband's passed away. The staff there were very kind to me when I was overwhelmed by caregiving. Thanks to them, my husband was able to spend his last year in peace. The facility was always very busy due to staff shortages. After he passed, I consulted with the staff and decided to help out a little. I've always been good at cooking and baking, so on the days I went to the facility, I would bring homemade lunches and desserts as gifts for the staff. My husband left me a decent inheritance. Along with the money I earned from baking and selling food, I saved a large amount of money. Then one day, as I was doing housework on a holiday, my eldest son's family visited. I was surprised by the sudden visit, but I served them tea. "Mom, it's been a while. Sorry for dropping in like this. We've got some issues and decided to move here," my son Freddie said, reaching for the cookies on the table. He looked somewhat tired. Courtney, my son's wife, hardly spoke since arriving, constantly fiddling with her cell phone. A sudden move? Had there been some trouble? A flicker of unease crossed my mind, but I smiled at my granddaughter, Julie. "Julie, you've grown up so much. Have you been well?" It must have been about 5 years since I last saw my son's family. Ever since my husband developed dementia, I was too busy with his care to spend any time or emotional energy. I hadn't been able to pay much attention to my dear granddaughter, Julie, since the caregiving started. "Don't act like you care about Julie. It's been a long time since you saw her. You'd better give her some pocket money." "Grandma, it's been a long time. I've been good. I'm already in my 3rd year of middle school." "Oh my, time flies. So you're a student preparing for exams this year? You'll have to work hard." I smiled at her, but her face clouded over for a moment. I wondered, considering it's such an important time for exams, was it really okay for them to move? Just then, a cat's meow came from the kitchen. Julie was delighted, exclaimed and ran toward the kitchen. "A cat!" "Mom, since when do you have a cat?" "No, that kitty just comes to visit occasionally. I always leave the back door ajar for it." "Huh? That's a bit unsafe, isn't it?" Freddie was staring intently toward the kitchen. Courtney didn't even lift her face from her cell phone. While Julie was away, I asked, "Why did you have to move?" Their explanation was hesitant. "Well, we had some financial troubles due to a failed business, so we moved in a hurry and cut down expenses like rent." "How about your job?" "Job? Well, it's so-so. There's been various things, and I've been feeling kind of unwell. The doctor diagnosed me with a herniated disc and told me to rest for a while. But more importantly, Mom, I have a favor to ask you. I need to borrow some money. The business failed and the move resulted in huge expenses. I'm almost out of cash. I need about $5,000 to cover living expenses immediately." Honestly, I was shocked. Even though he was my eldest son, I was hesitant to lend such a large amount of money. And I wondered if this couple was really thinking about their future. But no matter how much I asked, they insisted. How could I have such a large amount of money at once? "I don't care. Find your own way, just lend us the money." Reluctantly, I took $5,000 from my savings and handed it to him. He smirked as he received the money and quickly put it in his pocket. "Well, I'll do what I can to help for Julie's sake, but make sure you do your best." "Thanks, Mom. We're headed back now, but we'll be depending on you more often, so keep the meals ready." After saying that, he called Julie, who was petting the cat in the kitchen. The 3 of them left. A few days later, while cleaning up the dishes, I felt a sense of foreboding about what was to come. "Mom, it's me. I'll be coming over tonight, so have the bath and dinner ready. And the money you gave me is gone, so I'm gonna need a bit more. See ya." Freddie hung up without waiting for my reply. I sighed and placed my phone on the table. It's been a half a month since my eldest son's family has been imposing on me. Since then, Freddie has come almost daily for meals and money. He has countless reasons for needing to use money, such as paying Julie's tuition or buying new furniture, etc. Initially, I prepared special meals and lent him thousands of dollars, especially when Julie visited on weekends. But I'd reached my limit. Freddie claimed he couldn't work due to doctor's orders, but he seemed perfectly healthy, and I couldn't understand why he was quickly spending all the money I lent him. I finally lost my patience, and I sternly spoke to him and his wife when they visited that evening. I don't want you to come so frequently, and stop asking me for meals and money. What? You said you'd help, Mom. Were you lying? You're so heartless. You don't care about your son and your niece. As expected, Freddie reacted angrily. Courtney silently ate the meal I prepared while playing on her cell phone. There's a limit, you know. Preparing meals every day and constantly lending money. Enough is enough. I'm going to go bankrupt at this rate. Fine. I'll give up on the money for a while. But in return, make my daily packed meal for us, till I can get a decent amount of money. Make sure it's 3 meals for every day. What? That's impossible. I told you, I'm helping at the nursing home on weekends. I don't have time to cook for you. Then just deliver it on your way there. If you wake up at 3 a.m., you'll have enough time to prepare everything. As I stood there in disbelief, he continued. If you won't do anything for us, then we won't let you see Julie anymore. We'll be estranged. Knowing how much I adore Julie, my only granddaughter, he said it with a smirk. Honestly, I wanted to cut ties with this couple, but my concern for Julie held me back. Let me think about it. I can't prepare that much money immediately. Then for now, gather about $30,000. Till you gather it, I expect daily packed meals. Come on, Courtney, let's go. From now on, Mom will be delivering our meals, so we won't have to bother coming here. Then my life was completely transformed. I woke up before dawn to prepare packed meals for my son's family and then headed to the nursing home. Despite being exhausted and sleep-deprived, I couldn't cut ties with my son. I was concerned about Julie. Perhaps this hectic life continued for about a month. The doctor diagnosed me with physical weakness. If this condition continues, I can develop many other diseases, and I may have to be hospitalized for monitoring and treatment. Then one weekend, Julie came alone, unusually. I greeted her with a smile, but her expression was somber. I wasn't supposed to come here anymore, according to Dad. As she pet the cat lying in the kitchen and sat quietly. Dad and Mom make you prepare packed meals every day. Then they just laze around at home and do nothing. I'm sorry. Julie, you don't have to apologize. Well, I'm a bit worried about those two. How's your new school? Are you managing to keep up with your studies? I tried to change the topic cheerfully, but she just silently cried. I was surprised by this sudden outburst and comforted her by rubbing her back. She eventually started to sob loudly. I didn't understand why, but I patiently waited until she calmed down. Eventually, Julie stopped crying and revealed an unbelievable truth. Since moving here, she hadn't been attending middle school. Not only that, but Freddie had forced her to work part-time jobs by lying about her age. She was juggling several jobs from morning till evening every weekday, and all the money she earned went straight into Freddie's pocket. Moreover, he had taken away her cell phone when they moved. One day, he suddenly said, "We're moving." And he forced her into the truck without allowing her to say goodbye to her friends or teachers. He had fiercely sworn her to secrecy about this to me, her grandmother. I was stunned and at a loss for words as Julie tearfully recounted these shocking facts. It was almost like a midnight escape. What happened to my eldest son and his wife? So that's what happened, Julie? You've been going through a lot. Sorry I didn't realize it sooner, but thank you for telling me. No, I'm sorry. I made you worry. Yesterday I overheard Dad and Mom talking about Grandma's land deed. They were secretly planning to put you in a nursing home, pretending you've gone senile. I couldn't stand it anymore. I hugged her as she started to cry again. I could no longer forgive even my son, though he's my own flesh and blood. I had been tolerating this for the sake of my dear Julie, but I had reached my limit. He's a grown adult and a parent. He must be held responsible for his actions. I silently made up my mind. Julie, don't worry about anything. Just leave everything to me. By the way, which school are you planning to take the entrance exam for? I smiled at her encouragingly. Her eyes, red from crying, softened a bit. I want to go to the Brown Feather Ridge Academy. With everything going on and no money, I might not even be able to take the exams. Oh, Brown Feather Ridge. I know it's a culinary and pastry school, right? The founder was a classmate of your grandpa and me. It's a great school. Really? That's amazing. I love the food you make, Grandma. I want to make people happy with my cooking, just like you. You've inspired me a lot. I admire you so much. Julie then shared her dream with me. Despite the difficult circumstances, she'd given up on her dream and was steadily studying. I encouraged her to continue her studies and made her promise to do so. After seeing her off, I immediately sprang into action. First, I decided to thoroughly investigate my son and his wife and hired a private detective. A week later, I received the investigation results, pondered for a while, then made several calls. Once everything was ready, I called Freddie. Hey, son, I've gathered a considerable amount of money. I want to hand it over in person on the condition that you're going to bring Courtney and Julie along. Thinking he would finally receive a substantial amount of money, he happily agreed to my conditions. We decided to meet at a cafe over the weekend. Sitting at a window-side table in the cafe, I was checking my phone when Freddie's family arrived. I placed my phone on the table and exchanged greetings. Oh, you're here. Have a seat. Hey, give me that money now. Do you want to be cut off from us? Freddie immediately reached for the tea envelope in my hand. The envelope was stuffed full and bulging. I pulled the envelope toward myself and held it firmly. If you wish, I'm fine with cutting ties. But before that, there are some things I need to confirm with you two today. I'll give this to you after that. I pointed out to my son and his wife that they hadn't been sending Julie to middle school since moving, and furthermore, had illegally forced her to work part-time. They tried to evade the issue, but perhaps eager for the money, they admitted the truth. We had no choice. We were out of money. If we get the money, we'll stop making her work and we'll send her back to school. That sounded suspicious. I continued to inquire about his apparent lack of employment. Are you really under doctor's orders not to work? Which hospital? You should have receipts or medical cards, and I'd like to see them. I don't have it. Are you faking an illness? Lying just because you don't want to work? I see that you can still walk normally. As the atmosphere grew increasingly tense, he finally raised his voice. Don't say such awful things. True, I haven't been to a hospital, but I've been through a really rough time. Something shocking happened. Hey, Freddie, why don't you tell me honestly what happened? Then I'll give you this, I said, indicating the envelope in my hand. Reluctantly, he began to speak. All right, I told you before that my business failed, but that is true. I was betrayed by a business partner, this guy Walter. He took off with all the money, and I worked so hard to earn it. All the crucial know-how and equipment for the business were in his hands, so there was nothing I could do. So that's what happened? I'm the victim here. That's why we couldn't pay rent. That's why we had to move in here in a hurry. Now, give me that money, will you? He said, and finally snatched the envelope from my hands. As he opened the envelope, instead of a large sum of money, it was filled with a pile of bills. He stared blankly at the bills scattered across the table. Hey, why don't you finally tell the truth? Disappointed in his continual denial, I revealed the facts that I had uncovered. I know you got involved in gambling as the business started to make a profit, accruing a large amount of debt. To cover it, you deceived your business partner, took all the earnings, and even got involved with loan sharks before fleeing in the night. Julie was thrown into the chaos without understanding anything. She couldn't even say goodbye to her friends and teachers, and you took her phone away. Can you understand how scared and miserable she felt? Freddie, seemingly indifferent to my words, desperately searched through the bills for money. I was utterly disgusted watching his pathetic behavior. Freddie's been hiding from loan sharks and business associates, so he hadn't even registered for work, nor had he completed any school transfer procedures for Julie. His wife, Courtney, wasn't working either. They had no income. It was clear that they'd be relying on me from the start. I was gonna work, really, once things settled down. What have you actually done? All you did was demand money and meals and force Julie to work. Courtney doesn't work either. She just plays with her phone. Although I know you've been sneaking into my house while I'm away. It's trespassing. I always left the back door ajar for a visiting cat. Freddie knew this, and he'd been sneaking into my house while I was at the nursing home. The one day I heard about Freddie and Courtney from Julie, I remembered that I'd won a pet camera in a raffle once. I decided to set it up after pulling it out from storage. Sure enough, I captured Freddie entering the back door, rummaging through the cupboard while I was away. The footage is saved on my phone. You were planning to take over my house and land and put me in a nursing home, pretending I've gone senile, weren't you? Wasn't that your plan all along? Shut up! You keep accusing me of crimes. Just because you're my mother doesn't mean you can make up such nonsense without proof. We have a witness here. Suddenly, a deep male voice came from behind. Freddie turned and jumped at the sight of the man. Walter, how come you're here? I was contacted by Allison. Heard there was going to be a discussion today, so I came all the way in to join. It's good to see you, Freddie. Walter sat next to Freddie, blocking his escape. It was my first time meeting him, but Walter was a large, imposing, middle-aged man. I wondered how Freddie dared to cross someone like him. Freddie, return my money now. I've called the police outside and I've filed a report, and either return the money or turn yourself in right now. As Walter said this, Freddie frantically looked towards the window. A police car had parked right in front of the store, and an officer was standing there. He was pressing the phone to his ear, looking in our direction. Freddie's eyes widened in disbelief, and he involuntarily stepped back while still seated. Wait, I'm sorry, Walter. I'm really sorry. I'll return the money. I didn't run away. I just needed some time. Please, just give me another half month. So your plan is to flee again, huh? You really think I could trust the words of someone who already deceived me once? I'll ask you one more time. You return the $30,000 you stole from me right now, or I go to the police officer outside. Which is it? Freddie was facing imminent arrest. A palpable, bottomless fear struck him. The beads of sweat formed on his forehead. He trembled and remained silent, staring at the table. Eventually, Freddie's bloodshot eyes slowly turned towards me. Hey, Mom, is this okay with you? If I get arrested, Julie will be the daughter of a criminal. Her life will be ruined because of your meddling. If you don't want to do that, give me the money. Walter, sorry to interrupt, but could I borrow your phone? Mine isn't working at the moment, and I need to call this number. I said, cutting off Freddie's desperate attempt. Ignoring his stunned expression, I looked at the phone Walter handed me and dialed a number. I switched it to speaker mode and placed it on the table. Julie, I'm calling the principal of Brown Feather Ridge Academy. I've briefly explained your situation. Please talk to him. Julie, taken aback, managed to startle. Huh? The call started. She hesitantly took the phone. A deep, calm male voice came through. Yes, is this Nathan Brown? Hello. My name's Julie. I love my grandmother's cooking. I want to be able to make people happy with my cooking, too. I want to apply for Brown Feather Ridge Academy, so I'm making this phone call to you. the admirable Principal Brown of Brown Feather Ridge Academy. Julie nervously fumbled her words, tried her best to convey her feelings to the principal. Principal Brown listened attentively, nodding and responding kindly to her words. "Thank you for sharing that with me. I understand your feelings well, Julie. You've been through a lot. Your Grandma Allison is an old friend of mine, and I'm aware of your situation." Julie suddenly fell silent, struck by the realization. That's right, there was no hope for her exams for the future. Her shoulders slumped like a deflating balloon. "But that's not a problem, Julie. You have a dream, you're working hard towards it. It's an honor that you've chosen Brown Feather Ridge Academy as your first step. We provide equal opportunities to all children, regardless of their circumstance. Come take the exam with confidence. We're waiting for you." After the call ended, I thanked Walter and returned his phone. "There you go, Julie. Now you're all set. Freddie can turn himself in without any worries." Freddie sat frozen, expressionless. Julie, overwhelmed with gratitude, looked at me with teary eyes. The entire cafe had fallen silent, witnessing this unexpected turn of events. In case you don't know, Brown Feather Ridge Academy is the culinary school that Julie aspires to. She's working hard toward her dream despite the troubles caused by her foolish parents. "Freddie, this is the choice you made. You can either face the consequences of your actions or take responsibility for Julie's future." Julie looked at her father. Her cheeks were still flushed from the phone call, but her eyes sparkled with hope. Freddie, cornered and desperate, stared at the scattered bills on the table. It was clear that his plans had crumbled. Freddie was ashamed, lowered his gaze. Encouraged by Walter, Freddie eventually left the cafe and went outside. The police officer put away his phone and began talking with him. Freddie, realizing the gravity of the situation, had run out of options and sighed deeply. It was regrettable to see my child in police custody, but for Julie's sake, he needed to face the consequence of his actions. I picked up my phone, which had been on the table. I had consulted with the officer beforehand and had the phone on a call throughout our discussion, enabling the officer to listen in. The entire conversation was recorded, ensuring Freddie couldn't escape this time. And there was one more thing. During the entire exchange, Freddie's wife, who had shown little interest in her family's situation, was busy on her phone. I looked at her, somewhat exasperated, and said, "Courtney, Freddie has gone to the police. What about you?" She glanced over, uninterested. "This is all your fault, Mom. You ruined everything. I don't care about that husband anymore. I'm getting divorced right away." Julie looked at her mother in shock. "Wait, what about Julie? The divorce is between you two. You need to think about Julie. She deserves a better chance at life." "I've made up my mind about my future. Just leave me alone. I've been dragged around enough by my husband. I want to do something I want to do for a change." Tears began to stream down Julie's face. Both her father and now her mother had hurt her deeply. I sighed, feeling a mix of anger and resignation. Later, Freddie confessed all his crimes at the police station and was still being interrogated. He had accrued a lot of debt, $50,000 from prostitution, stole $30,000 from his former business partner Walter, and borrowed $20,000 from loan sharks. The amount that he had extracted from me was about $20,000. Naturally, both Walter and I intended on claiming back every penny. As much as it pains me to see my own child in this state, I hoped Freddie takes this opportunity to reflect deeply and make amends for his actions. Courtney, as Freddie's wife, was also interrogated. It was discovered that she was a victim of a scam. It was a romantic scam, where she was seduced by someone she met on social media, entering into a romantic relationship before skillfully conned out of a large sum of money. The person Courtney had been consistently interacting with on her phone claimed to be a certain ultra-famous handsome actor. One day she received a discreet, direct message from him, fell head over heels in love after being fervently pursued. She continued transferring money as instructed. Of course, it was all a sham. The person posing as an actor was a fraudster. Her case matched numerous others reporting incidences to the police. Realizing she was scammed, she was left devastated. Having already divorced Freddie, she was left with nowhere to turn, wandering the streets. She returned to her parents' house but was disowned by her parents, so she had to take the most menial jobs to pay off her debt. I decided to live with Julie afterward. We sold our family home and land, moving to an apartment near Brown Feather Ridge Academy. The property, located in a prime urban area, had immense value, fetching several $1,000,000. To ensure Julie would be taken care of even after my passing, I made her the beneficiary of the assets. Despite the hasty move and the turmoil caused by her parents' police involvement, Julie pursued and kept working hard. I helped her with her middle school transfer and her entrance exam preparations. Thankfully, all our efforts paid off, and Julie was successfully admitted to the Brown Feather Ridge Academy. Grandma, I can't believe you did all this for me. I'm so grateful. Julie, you're my granddaughter, and I love you. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you have a bright future. Just as Principal Brown said, Julie is now diligently pursuing her studies at the academy, enjoying her youth surrounded by friends. As I watch my beloved Julie grow and thrive, I live a contented and peaceful life. As for me, I continue my volunteer work at the nursing home and embrace the roles of a loving grandmother. The experience taught us the importance of family, resilience, and the strength that comes from standing up for what's right. And so life moved forward, carrying with it the lessons learned from a challenging chapter in our family's history.